Have you ever seen a Toyota Yaris and brushed it off as any other boring economy cars? Well, yes, in a technical spec, they are. However, they are also incredibly charming and interesting cars. Dive deeper into the interior and you'll find a surprisingly fun and quirky space. And this doesn't only apply to the Yaris either. In fact, it applies to hundreds of other charming economy cars just like the little machine. And today, we will be exploring the charm, history, and insights of economy cars. Let's dive in. First of all, I must briefly explain economy cars to you. While economy cars can be explained in many ways, it's basically just a car that gets you from point A to point B within a small budget. A prime example are the popular Japanese hot hatches. Let's take the Honda Jazz for example. The car was introduced in 2001 with one sole purpose, to get you from one place to another. However, being able to do only that isn't going to get Honda anywhere with sales, because any working car can do that. Instead, they inject charm, quirkiness, and characteristics into them. More on that later. Now that you understand the concept and idea of economy cars, let's explore the shockingly important history of economy cars. This category of vehicle dates back to the early 20th century, with cars such as the Ford Model T allowing more people to afford cars. In fact, without economy cars, automobiles would have never been generalized due to their rarity and heavy prices. However, as time proceeded to the post-World War II, more affordable cars such as the Citroen 2CV, Fiat 500, and more were introduced to the public due to the staggering economy boom that followed. However, while that era is important to economy cars, I personally consider the peak of charming and quirky economy cars to be the 1980s to the early 2000s. Why, you may ask? You see, while the post-war era properly introduced the idea of economy cars, it was only after a while where they got much more refined and where the competition got much further. Therefore, automakers added unique features or characteristics into their cars. The future for them was looking bright. However, what goes up must come down, and that's what happened to them. Heading further into the 2000s, these affordable cars started becoming more standardized as automakers started cost cutting. What this meant was that they started valuing money over creativity, which ended up with most economy cars nowadays being plain, simple, and boring. And this doesn't only affect the cars, it affected us too. Every economy car nowadays follows the same recipe: a half digital gauge, a small infotainment screen in the center, and way too many safety features thrown in. Whoever needed lane tricks this in the base model Yaris? Instead of innovating and inventing cool and practical features the average consumer needs, car manufacturers toss in all these useless features and charge you a premium for it. However, all that rambling makes modern economy cars look bad when they really aren't. While they have lost many of their charms on the way, they still fulfill something many car buyers need: a cheap, reliable, and somewhat practical daily commuter. But enough rambling, let's now explore the charm of economy cars and why manufacturers should bring them back. Ever since economy cars have gotten popular, there has been many competitions. So, car manufacturers must get creative, and that's where the coolest of them come in. To stand out, automakers implement cool, interesting, or attractive features. For example, Japanese automakers during the 80s to the 90s cranked out some of the most iconic and well-beloved economy cars ever. How did they manage that? By making them some of the most bulletproof and charming cars of all time. Take the Mazda 2 for example. It fulfills the role of an affordable hot hatch, yet maintaining a sporty, compact, and somewhat playful design. And remember how I said that modern economy cars lost their charm? I made an exception with the Mazda 2. In fact, I think the best generation yet is the latest one, with its sporty and somewhat sleek design. And also, did I mention that the current Mazda 2 is from 2014? You see, if automakers just design their economy cars to be more charming, they can save money from having to roll out more generations. This is because implementing charm into a car usually makes it more timeless than the competition. Think about it this way: us, the consumer consumer receive a fantastic car, while automakers save money from having to redesign the car. Doesn't that just sound great? And after all that, let's now look at some of the most charming economy cars of all time. Starting off, we've got the first generation Toyota Yaris. Where do I start? Introduced in 1998, the car featured a compact and egg-shaped design, making it look extremely quirky. Moreover, the interior looks bubbly and fun. Overall, the original Yaris is a prime example of a quirky car that made it out of the niche market, which makes it stand out above all other economical hatches. Next up, we got the first generation Renault Twingo. Think of it as sort of a predecessor of the Yaris, but slightly more practical with its innovative rear sliding seats. Moreover, it introduced the idea of digital gauges into economy cars, which is apparent in the Yaris too. And last but not least, we've got the Citroen 2CV, probably the most iconic car on the list. Originating in 1948, the 2CV was on sale for 42 years, and that's due to its cheap pricing, simplicity, and quirkiness. The car was initially criticized for its absurd and cheap look, but its popularity just kept spreading. By the end of production in 1990, 3.8 million 2CVs was produced, making it an immense success among economy cars for its time. And that concludes for today's video. Hopefully you have enjoyed or learned something about the charms of economy cars. If you have more cars in mind, comment down below. And also, why am I having a Yaris addiction?